Hi, welcome to my little bookshelf tour video. I thought this would be a fun and chill thing to do, especially when some videos are taking a while to actually make. They are much more intensive than anticipated. The X Files are just getting longer, the history videos have manga which are getting really hard for me to read, so why don't we do something a little more down to earth, something that probably won't require as much editing, I hope, and something where I just get to show off all the cool stuff I've collected over the years and things I like, which I might not have represented on the channel yet. It will also just give insight into who I am and kind of what other things I do like other than Shonen Jump, which is very apparent if you've watched any of my videos. Sorry if the filming sucks. I'm doing my best to record with what I have, and I'm not really a photographer or a filmer or anything like that. I'm just using my phone here, and my hope is that I can just edit it all together with voiceover so it looks somewhat presentable. We have a lot to go through because my shelf is pretty big and I'm a serial yapper, so let's go right into the first shelf. I'm going to ignore the top one first, like the above of my shelf, because I will alienate everyone by talking about Gunpla for like 10 straight minutes. And I don't think anyone wants to hear that, at least at the beginning. I'm sure some people do, but let's go into some of the more miscellaneous, like cool things I have first. And there will be timestamps as well. So if you want to jump around, if you want to jump to when I talk about these Shonen Jump issues, or just some of the manga I have, or the Gunpla, you can just looking the YouTube thing, the description, or the little bar where you can select where you want to go. Okay, so first off, we have my top shelf, which is just a lot of my favorite things, a lot of the non-book items, really. And the first thing we have is this cute little standee of Suletta and Miorine from Gundam The Witch from Mercury by Sunati. They're the artist. I will put their kind of in the description, the links to their socials there if you want to check them out. So I did say we wouldn't start with Gunpla, but I guess we're starting with Gundam. And two of my favorite characters. I just adore these two, as you will come to learn. And I don't really know what compelled me to, I guess, buy some merch for them, but I just saw this artist's kind of rendition of these two characters, and I was like, hell yeah, let's pick up some stuff by them, and this is one of the things I got. And I have even more than just this little figurine, because I have individual actual figurines of both characters as well, which I think are cheaper Crane Game kind of prize figures from Banpresto, Bandai, whatever. These I bought alongside some Japanese manga at some point while I was actually buying some things from Japan when I had some extra income, and they're really cool. Even though these are meant to be cheaper figures that you could maybe just win in a Crane Game, they have some nice little detail, they are painted really nicely, and they go really well together, and I'm just kind of happy I have both of them. At one point I only had Suletta, and I felt kind of sad for the figure. I was like, I need to buy your wife, I guess, which I eventually did, and now I have both of them, and I just like looking at them on my shelf. It makes me really, really happy to see them together. The next thing is an album. It's the only album I really own, which is Nurture by Porter Robinson, and this is just something I adore. Each song is great in its own way. I could go through each song. I could make a video on Nurture itself, and I kind of plan to a little bit, we'll see. But I'll shout out Dullscythe as one of my favorite songs from the album. I feel like it's not talked about a lot, but it's really cool, and just it makes me feel things when I listen to it, as does all of the songs. It as an album, I think it came out around COVID times, so like at an odd place in everyone's lives. So it was a really nice comfort. But beyond that, like even some of the songs that kind of came out before the album was released, Look at the Sky and Get Your Wish, I was listening to like on repeat before the album came out. And it's just music that makes me feel really present in the world and just alive and thankful and grateful and inspired to like make stuff. Yeah, so I had to just pick up a copy of the album. I haven't opened it or anything. I don't think I have anything to even play it on, but if perchance all the electricals in the world die or whatever and I find a CD player, well, maybe I can listen to this song. This album, I mean. The one kind of negative, I guess, is this doesn't have the bonus track, which the Japanese have, Moonlight Lullaby, which is absolutely beautiful as well. I wish that was on here, but I guess the Japanese people have to have an extra thing. So good on them, I guess. The next little thing is a little Squirtle plushie. I got this at a Comic-Con in Cardiff. I haven't really been to many events like this, so I wanted a kind of souvenir to remember the day. Since it was a lot of fun, I went with my friend, and it's a rare instance of me really enjoying a very extroverted kind of day or activities, which really drained me afterwards. And I'd love to do more stuff like this. I'm sure it's a cool gateway to meet all sorts of like people and stuff, but I kind of need the extra push, and I need friends with me to do any of this. And I just struggle to go to places like this, but I'm glad I have this little guy because I can remember that day, and I kind of just love Squirtle. It's a nice little plushie. Him just holding the heart is really cute. As a Pokemon, it's one of my favorites as well. It reminds me of when I was in secondary school or high school. I'd have business lessons or some lessons where we had access to computers, and when I would finish my work, or even when there would just be a lecture on or whatever, I would plop in a USB stick which had Pokemon save files, and there was this website where you could play Pokemon via Red. So I would load up the save files, and me and my friend Zenith would play Pokemon Fire Red in class, and we had this Squirtle who we called Nice Ass, I think, because we were kids. And yeah, we had this little Pokemon adventure in school, and I remember it really fondly, and it's kind of the birth of my love of Squirtle over like Charmander, who I liked more as a kid. But all three of those Kanto starters are amazing. Getting a bit off topic, but yeah, Squirtle plushie, he's a cool little guy. Also on this shelf are some art books. The first one is Cat by Gingrjoke, which is really cool. I met them at a different con in person, and they're this artist I've been following for like ages, like years and years, from Twitter. They draw in this really fun way, really colourful way, with some like light BDSM elements, a lot of playful stuff though, and like monsters. And I was surprised to hear like, oh, they're Welsh and they live in Wales, I'm pretty sure. And they were just at this local con, and I was like, oh my god, I gotta go and I guess see them. That'd be interesting. And I was exceptionally awkward because I'm really bad socially. But they were really nice, and I managed to pick up this art book from them. And yeah, I can flick through it any time and see their art. Similarly, I also have another art book by an artist I've been following for a really long time, Oneism, I think, by Rebecca Reynolds. I haven't met them in person. I'm sure they go around Irish cons a lot, but I did buy this art book from their store, and I bought some other stuff from them as well, and they're really nice. Their art style is again really unique. It's really colourful and vibrant. This is a pattern with things. I'm very much someone who likes energetic and vibrant art. I think lots of colour, but Rebecca uses a lot of different techniques and painting. I don't really know how to describe it. I probably should flick through the art book and discuss it, but a lot of it feels like painted in different ways, which I really like. And they cover a variety of kind of subjects I really like Yakuza, Yu-Gi-Oh, just things I'm into. There's some berserk art in there as well, I think. It's just another little treasure of an art book, which I love to display and flick through every now and then. This next thing is a gift from a friend, Cactus, and it's a diorama. It is this art piece of Denji from Chainsaw Man fighting a bunch of Tyranids, and Cactus, as his job, gets to paint a lot of miniatures. Not Warhammer miniatures, but he does do that in his spare time. And one day he sent me a bunch of stuff, and this is one of the things, and it's a really cool custom-made diorama. The Denji is something he made, pieced together, and painted everything in loving detail. I don't really play much Warhammer, I'm not super into it, but when I have played or been interested, Tyranids are one of the things I gravitate to because they're really cool. So there's some info for you. If I had to pick like any army in 40k, I'd probably go with Tyranids. The cool thing about this, which I found really impressive, is not only is the Denji kind of custom made, but you can take him off the center, and there's a magnet in his like shoe. You can put him on, you can like move him around and stuff. which is really cool. There's just so much detail here. It's such a nice thing for a friend to kind of gift you. And yeah, displaying stuff like this on the shelf is really cool. Another thing I have from Cactus is this Russian copy of Michigan Report from Hell. I don't know about its legitimacy. It's not something I can really play, I think, but I don't really care because the sentiment is that this is a physical copy of this really dumb as fuck game I love to bits, and Cactus does too. I love PS2 games. I love PS2 horror. This is like one of the coolest games on the PS2. It's so silly. I'd love to talk about Michigan more, or just like stream it at some point on the channel, or just in the Discord or something. It's such a fun experience of just like, there's a pushing mechanic. You get to push like the reporters and Briscoe around. It's so much fun. If you've never heard of Michigan Report from Hell, go watch like a Let's Play of it, or download the ISO and play it on a PS2 emulator. You won't regret it. So the next shelf down, I'm going to talk about my Hibiki figure first. So this is the other big figure I have, and it's Hibiki Tachibana from Symphogear. And Symphogear is this thing I love a ton. I don't actually talk about it much. I haven't finished the last 2 seasons. I'm kind of saving them for a rainy day, but this is a series I love so much. Combine magical girls and like mecha tokusatsu, singing, tons and tons of melodrama, lesbians, and you get Symphogear, and it's the most fun thing ever. Just, you've probably seen clips of it online. It's absolutely crazy, and this figurine is amazing. Again, it's a prize figure, so it's cheaper, and I got it really cheap. I think partially why is I read a bunch of reviews and they said like it's a really fiddly figure with some bad parts that are hard to kind of put together, and they are. This can be a bit of a messy figure to put together because of Hibiki's kind of back elements, the kind of flying scarf parts. Yeah, they are a pain to put together, so I can see why. As a figure, it's so cool. It's so detailed. It's pretty big as well. I love the coloring on it. The painting's really nice. Yeah, I'm not very good at talking about figures. I don't have tons and tons or anything. I don't collect them, but I do like representing my favorite characters. And this one's just really cool. I love the pose. While filming, sadly, the back did fall off and there was a bit of a cataclysm, but everything's okay now. We still have all the pieces together. Off the top of my head, this might be a fun bonus thing. If I could have figures of any other characters, I've been eyeing up some Hoshinengi figures actually. They look really cool. But Jaden from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX is like a must want. He's one of my favorite characters ever. He'd be really cool to have. Maybe some Gundam characters like Amuro or Camille, because I just love Gundam characters a ton. Makima from Chainsaw Man, just because she's cool, girl boss. There's a bunch of characters I'm sure I'd love figures of, but I don't really have space anyway. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about the Shonen Jump issues I have. So, I have quite a few. Fresh from Japan, or once upon a time anyway, they were fresh from Japan. A lot of these are reproduction issues from the magazine's 50th anniversary, and from what I can tell, I think I have all of them. No idea what these run for now. They might be out of print and super duper expensive, but I'm lucky enough to own them all. And I'm very glad I am, because I'm such a Jump history nut. These are like the holy grail for me. The original like first issue 1968 one is so cool. It has like Kujiro Daigo in, it has Japanese Flash Gordon and all of these little one-shots and ads from the time. The paper and the print of all these reproduction issues is, I think, better than what they originally would have been. At least from the newer Jump issues I have, the printing is not very good. But here you can, I don't know, it's really nice. You can actually read and see the images. I'm actually surprised no one's like translated Kujiro Daigo as the first Jump manga. There's tons of like Jump manga that haven't been translated or scanned, but it being the first one, I would have thought someone would have attempted it, or at least attempted to do the first chapter, because like I have this, I could scan this potentially if I knew how and had a scanner. That's something to think about, I guess. But yeah, this one is in particular like a really cool issue to have something so old, even if it's a reproduction. Very fun to flick through. We have some other issues here as well. We have issue 26 of 1986, which I think features the climax of Kenshiro versus Rao, like the end of that. Pretty cool. Nice to have different series from different ages as well. I'm not going to go too in-depth with everything here. Issue 1-2 of 1987 is JoJo's debut issue, which is very, very cool. This has some all-time classics in, because we're like really deep into the golden age. Having JoJo's first issue as well is just cool. I'm such a big JoJo fan. Issue 21 to 22 of 1991, I think, has Goku going Super Saiyan versus Frieza, so a big kind of Dragon Ball chapter there, which is why this one got reprinted. Issue 3-4 of 1995 is the most circulated issue of Jump ever, I think, which I did bring up in the 1995 history video, if you're curious and want to know more about that. Then I have the final reproduction issue, which is issue 34, 1997, which is One Piece's debut, which will be coming up at some point in the future, probably later on this year. I'll talk about this issue / One Piece debuting, because that's a huge can of worms I need to talk about. Maybe one day I'll go into depth with some of these. They're really, really fun to flick through, and they give me a sense of place when I'm talking about the history videos, because I get to see just how people were reading these manga and how they were positioned in the magazine, what adverts were around. It's all very interesting. It's such a fun experience, and I really treasure it. I'd love to learn Japanese just to maybe read these in general. That's probably a long-term goal I need to try to do, especially with how much I love manga, but I'm very bad with languages. I also have even more Jump issues, so I have this is the newest edition I bought most recently, issue 42 2016, which is the issue Kochikame ended, which has tons of cool bonus Kochikame stuff. The cover is like shiny and gold and everything. Really cool to have a bit of a different time period issue. Most of the stuff I have is from like 2019 and beyond, so it's not too different, but I kind of wish I had an issue from every year or something. That would be cool, just to check easily like what was in Jump at every time, even though I'm gradually kind of getting better at knowing that off the top of my head, like year by year. I also have 4 assorted issues from 2019, which is when I really, really got into Jump, like very, I guess, deeply. These are, I have a Haikyuu cover, a Black Clover cover, and the debut of Yui Cameo Let's Loose and Tokyo Shinobi Squad. Both manga I don't particularly care for. They'll be interesting to do X Files on eventually, because I can show the issues they're from. I think I mainly bought these because of Chainsaw Man and The Last Sayuki, which we'll touch on in a bit. Lots of fun series, which I kind of grew up with, I feel, in these issues. Then I have some more recent ones. Issue 45 2023, which is a really cool group cover, and a rare instance of Gon from Hunter x Hunter being on the cover, which doesn't happen much, which really pushed me to want to get this one. I think it also just has some really good chapters in from memory, so yeah, that's a cool pickup. And then the newest issue I have is issue 33 of 2023, which is the 55th anniversary issue, which seemed very fitting. I picked this up. It has a cool little bonus leaflet thing where it goes through all the hits of Jump, which I thought was cool as well. And there's another group cover, so having everyone on the cover is really cool. There's tons of Jump issues I would love to have like more of, but they take up a lot of space and they cost a lot of money. They shouldn't, arguably, because they're meant to be these cheap things in Japan that you can kind of pick up and throw away easily, but the scalping market, especially like more recently, has gotten really bad for Jump stuff. So if you're out there looking for Jump issues, be careful, and I hope you get a good deal and find some cool issues. As I've said before, I'd love to go more in depth with these at some point, maybe when I have a better setup and I can show them off and maybe get some parts translated or something. That would be pretty interesting. Okay, this next one isn't a huge mainstay on my shelf or anything, but I thought I'd bring it up. I have 3 issues of a independent mana magazine called Zoey's Xbox by Dawson Jones, who sent them to me. I really want to make a video going over like independent manga or comics, mana, franwa, inspired by manga, like how manga has influenced people outside of Japan to make similar media, similar kind of art. It's been pushed back just because there's so many things I want to make, and logistically, like, there's a lot of bits and pieces for that. But this is for that, and hopefully I do want to talk about it in depth. But for now, since Dawson Jones was nice enough to send me them physically, I thought I would bring them up, and they're really cool. I flicked through, and the art inside is just really well drawn, really interesting. I don't really want to put a specific kind of artist or period to it, because I am not that knowledgeable outside of Shonen Jump, but it's definitely a bit more grittier and adult than what I usually cover, which is fine for my tastes, because I do read more than Shonen Jump in my free time. And I'm excited to just flick through these, and the fact that it's all drawn by like one person is crazy and really respectable. I will add some links to Zoey's Xbox and their socials down below if you want to check them out. And yeah, if you see them at a con or something in America, definitely like have a look, check out what they have, because the art here is really interesting. Next up, we have the Blue Period Artbook. And Blue Period, I'll talk about it now, is my favorite manga ever. I have most of the English volumes, which we'll get to later. And maybe it's a bit unexpected that Blue Period, a seinen manga about art and creation from afternoon, is one of my favorite things. I guess if you know me, it probably wouldn't be that surprising, but you might expect a Shonen Jump manga to be my like absolute favorite, like One Piece or something. But no, Blue Period, I love it to bits, and it's been with me since kind of secondary school or high school. And as Yatora, the main character, has grown up through high school and gone to art college, I also did the exact same thing. So while he was studying for art in high school, while he was studying art in college, and having all these frustrations about art on a kind of technical basis and an emotional basis, I was going through the same stuff. So it's been this really special and important series to me that's changed how I perceive art, changed me as a person and artist, and I really love it to bits. So having the artbook makes so much sense. I wish the artbook did have a bit more art in, though. There's a lot of text and I think interviews and stuff which I'd love to read, but it's in Japanese and I can't. But yeah, just for such an art-focused series, it's a tad underwhelming, but still something really, really cool. I don't want to feel like I'm shitting on it, because it is something I obviously really love and is on my shelf for a reason. Next up, we have Rohan at the Louvre, and I am a huge JoJo's fan. I do have all of parts 1, 2, 4 in English, but they are in boxes and don't fit on my shelf. So showcasing JoJo, I can do so through this individual kind of story, which is in full color, by the way, which is really cool. Obviously, this was sold, I think, in partnership when Araki was showing stuff off in the Louvre. There were some other comics and mangaka showing some stuff off there as well. And I remember picking this up in secondary school or high school when I was studying Araki for art. We kind of had to pick an artist to kind of look at in a deeper way, and yeah, I wanted to just look at his art and see what kind of makes him tick and learn more about him, and I did, and just fell in love with JoJo and Araki in a whole different way. It's really convenient that he has a book that's related to the Louvre, which you can just show your art teachers and be like, look, he was in the Louvre and look at all this art, and yeah, it's a gateway to kind of bridge the gap between I guess high art and manga. They were never the type of teachers to be very dismissive about stuff like that anyway, but it's interesting. I don't know when that gap it bridges in the art world. He's just a really good, I think, figure maybe to introduce people who aren't familiar with manga to manga as an art form, if you want to try to make that argument with them and show them that like manga should be on par with like all other forms of art and stuff. I think that's really cool. I've been yapping kind of around Rohan at the Louvre as well here, but it's a really cool little more horror like and drama inspired JoJo story. It was a bit darker and more mature from memory, but something really cool to have on the shelf if I just want to look at some Araki art really quickly. The next thing is Good Boy magazine, and I definitely bought this partially because seeing the title made my puppy dog part of my brain like light up. But it's actually a really cool comic anthology with a lot of little individual stories by artists. It's full of little cute strips, full of, I don't know, just little stories. It's so varied, it's so different from a lot of the other stuff I like. I really like cuter little doodles like this. It's kind of how I draw mainly, so having something like this is pretty inspiring, I guess. It makes me want to make something like this just on my own, just a book full of little comics with different art styles, and it's just fun to look through. There is at least one other volume of Good Boy magazine, which is out there somewhere. I don't really have the money to buy them, I think, and it might be really expensive now, but it would be cool to pick up one day. Speaking of comics, I do have some. I'm not super into them like I am with manga, but there is some really amazing ones that I love to bits. Most of them are written by Brian K. Vaughan. He's definitely an author I kind of adore, with Saga being my very favorite. I have the first 9 volumes on my shelf at all times, the pre-hiatus volumes. I also own like pretty much all of the pre-hiatus issues of Saga, like individually bagged and boarded, which was a very silly impulse buy on my part, but the individual covers of Saga are so nice. It kind of mesmerized me to buying them. I might need to sell them at some point because I just don't have the room, and they probably have kept their value, I assume, because they're like nice condition comics, which might even be all like first edition or something crazy. I don't know. I bought them for the covers mainly. Saga as a story, though, is something I would definitely push you towards. If you really like manga but haven't really dipped into comics, and you just don't feel like you vibe with them, you're not interested in a lot of the superhero stuff or some of the more mature looking stuff people usually point out, Saga just has this story and world which is so captivating, draws you in because of Fiona Staples' like amazing artwork and character designs, but the writing and the story that goes on about like this family who are kind of hunted down by this universe that kind of wants them dead just because they kind of exist. It's such a fun little story, and I would heavily just recommend checking it out. I think it's worth having a look at if you want to try something different, if you haven't read many comics, because this got me into reading a bit more. I also have Invincible's first big compendium. I really like the show. I think it's a lot of fun. The comics artwork is really cool as well. The big thing with this is this volume is way too big to kind of read and enjoy. I don't really know why I bought this. I was in uni and had too much disposable income. That's all. Yeah, and it's just sitting on my shelf because it's really big, I guess. I also have an Archie Comics issue here. Mainly bought this because, one, Fiona Staples, who did the art in Saga, did some artwork here. And also, two, I'm a big Riverdale fan, and that show is really silly, so I just wanted, I guess, some Archie-related thing to read to remind me of the show, and because it's a kind of classic comic. This isn't like classic Archie or anything, but I thought it would be different enough. I just haven't read it yet. Hopefully I will at some point. Onto manga, we have a lot of Japanese volumes. There's a lot of Fujimoto stuff here. I have his one-shot collections. I have a copy of Look Back in Japanese, as well as Chainsaw Man, and all of this was bought like before he fully exploded in popularity, especially Chainsaw Man. I bought when I wasn't sure, like, oh, is this going to get cancelled? Is this going to get axed? Maybe that sounds silly in retrospect, but at the time, it was very much like, is this something that will fit in Jump? Nowadays, it's like, yeah, it's one of the coolest, newer things Jump's ever put out, but back then it was so odd and different. There was some hesitancy, so I was like, okay, I definitely want to buy volume 1 of this, at least so I have this artwork because it's so cool. And I don't know, I love Fujimoto's artwork. It's so amazing. And similarly, I wasn't sure, will Look Back ever get an English release? I have no idea. Nowadays, yes, of course. It has its own film. Like, yeah, it's super beloved. Back then, though, different story, so that's why I have that. And I also have the English versions of Look Back, Goodbye Eri, his one-shots, Chainsaw Man as well as somewhere. I have a Russian version of Chainsaw Man. I can't find it, which characters gifted me as well. So I have a lot of Fujimoto stuff here and there. For other Japanese volumes, like Chainsaw Man, I did buy a few Jump manga that I was scared would get cancelled, and they did. Ayashimon being one, although we did get an English release later on anyway. And then The Last Sayuki I have volume 1 of, which is a series I'm really fond of overall, and I'd love to do an X File on someday. For other Japanese volumes, I have a volume of Elmore Evans. It's a Western kind of rom-com, which is really, really funny, and I'd love to read more of someday. A bit of a random one I have, but the artwork is really, really fun, and it just, at the time, I think I was really into it. Hiraeth Volume 1, this is one of my most favorite manga ever. I love the artist a ton. I would like to talk about this manga on the channel. I have talked about it in this recent video, but I want to talk about different aspects of it in a bit more depth someday. I also have Volume 1 of Humankind Cannot Be Regenerated, the Magic the Gathering manga. This is another favorite of mine, which I'm really happy now has an English release. That's really cool. I'd love to pick that up one day, but I have Volume 1 in Japanese. Hoseki no Kuni Volume 12 is an interesting one I have. It's still sealed because this is meant to be for Cactus, but sending things across borders, especially to Russia, is borderline impossible and just a pain in the ass, and we've never really found out how, so I'm holding on to this for him, and I'll give it to him at some point. I also have a copy of Nude Model, which is a one-shot collection for Tsubasa Yamaguchi of Blue Period fame. This is just one of my favorite artists ever, and the one-shots from this I have read. Nude Model is really great, kind of progenitor to Blue Period, kind of interesting. You have a fuckboy-esque character from memory, very feminine boy kind of teasing this more nerdy girl in an art context, very cool. And then you have this decadent vampire story called Kamiya, which is one of my favorite pieces of manga ever. It's a two-shot about vampires, and I love vampires, so yeah. This has an English release, which I will mention later, but I do own that as well. Weird thing I have is a French copy of Hunter x Hunter Volume 1, which the French have similar publishing, I think, to Japan with their manga. They have the little pocket-sized books with the dust covers, which I find really cool. I kind of wish we had those. Just the dust covers are really nice, and you can just fit more manga on your shelf that way. This is a present from my parents, I think from a birthday or Christmas one year, where they got confused. I really appreciate them trying to feed into my interests, but they ended up buying the French version, which was very, very funny. So having this on my shelf just kind of makes me happy to look back on. Another thing I have is a Japanese copy of Eiichiro Oda's Wanted, since at the time that didn't have an English translation. I'm glad it does now. I also have a random copy of JoJo's Part 5 I found in a used bookstore. Really interesting thing to just find randomly, so I was sure, I'll pick this up. This is very odd. And then finally, for Japanese volumes, I have Stop Hibari-kun Volume 1, the kind of bigger, later release. I can't remember the exact name of the type of bunkoban, tankoban, whatever. It might be bunkoban. Yeah, I love Hibari. This is a really nice one. It's really high quality. There's color pages, and I think this version specifically is getting an English release by PO2 Publishing. They're doing some really good stuff. I love that Hibari is getting an official English release. That's absolutely crazy, and hopefully I can pick those up at some point. I'd love to have all of Hibari in English readable on my shelf. That would be amazing. Next, I have some manga history books, or books kind of on manga. The Taschen 100 manga artist book is kind of cool. I really like the outside presentation, but sadly inside I think it's a bit too bare bones, and it's padded by having the same text but in different languages, which is really cool if you're from different countries, but I would have rather maybe they just had separate editions for different countries, because it looks like a really dense book on manga, but actually it's not, and it's full of very surface level info with barely anything on each artist, with a few images for each. I probably wouldn't recommend it, to be honest. The Shonen Jump Guide to Making Manga is kind of fun. There's some cool tidbits from individual artists. It could inspire you maybe if you're a younger creator looking to make manga. I wouldn't take it too seriously. What is a much better kind of version of this maybe is Araki's book, Manga in Theory and Practice. It's just more fun to hear from an individual author in depth about their creative experience and how they make things. It is maybe helpful in a creative context. It definitely can get you thinking, but just having a book about Araki and how he makes things is just, I don't know, that's very interesting to me. There's some tips and tricks I definitely taken from this, which I apply to my art and how I make things as well. So very cool little book. This next one is from the British Museum's manga exhibit, and this one is really relevant to me, especially because this manga exhibit in I think it was the British Museum, just the National Museum, I went to it in 2019 with my dad for my birthday that year, and it's the only time I've ever been in London. Absolutely crazy experience. There's so many people there at all times, and the buildings are very large. But seeing the manga exhibit, especially like if you contrast how big the British Museum was and the buildings outside, and then you go into this small little dark room, instantly very comforting. And then there's a manga everywhere, and they just had so much on display. So many of my favorite manga showcasing their original pages and all of this art and history. And I think this moment, this like 2 or 3 hours I spent in this room, like going over all of these different manga and reading everything, that was a pivotal part in me loving manga as a medium and getting so invested. And here I am today kind of talking about it on a channel, and almost like 10,000 people have subscribed to watch me hear about me talk about all of this stuff, which is amazing. I really wish I could go back as well, because I know I would appreciate it even more now. I know I'd appreciate the historical aspects like so much. I know I'd appreciate the like parts on different shoujo mangaka more, and because I'm a lot more interested in manga generally, it primed in me that love as well. If this was ever like redone, I would absolutely like love to go. I would do my damnedest to kind of go back. But this book is from that exhibit, and the funny thing is, I didn't buy this book at the exhibit in 2019. I got it like a year or two ago, and I was with my dad, who also went to the exhibit with me, and we were visiting my grandma, and she lives in this small town in South England, and we went to a charity shop, a kind of used things store, and it was just, this book was just there, just almost like fatefully there, and that was a really magical experience. I was like, just pointed to my dad like, look, this thing is here from this thing we went to years ago. And so we picked it up, and it is a cool book. There's a lot of stuff I remember from the exhibit. There's a lot of stuff I don't remember from the exhibit. I think there's some really good stuff on the history of manga there, and just some stuff I wouldn't have usually seeked out. Finally, for this kind of art book, not art book section, we'll get to that, manga book section, we have the history of hentai manga, which I haven't read yet, but I do really want to. I think a pretty shameless, I'll admit, pervert. I think talking about erotic things is really interesting, and I'd like to do more of it. I'm pretty immature though, and don't know much about stuff like this, so I definitely want to do my research before I delve into things a bit more. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading this. I hope it's good and not like too surface level or whatever. But yeah, maybe one day in the future expect me to delve into erotic manga if YouTube ever lets me, I guess. I don't really care, to be honest. As long as the video is up for people to watch, I don't really mind if I don't get money for it. I don't get money from YouTube anyway. Okay, next up we have just Assorted manga. I have a copy of Dirty Pair. The cover looked really interesting, and it's a singular issue of an older thing I had heard of. I don't really know why I picked it up. I guess that's why, kind of random. But yeah, cool. I flicked through before, and the art looks really nice. I should read this at some point. A lot of manga on my shelf are actually just stuff I want to read at some point, but I never do. Yeah, someone yell at me. What the Font is an interesting one because it delves into fonts and typography, which I'm interested in as an artist. It's something I'd like to know more about, so that's why it's there. And yeah, it's cool that there is a manga, I think, made by Japanese people about font and possibly localization, I'm not too sure. Bloom Into You is a series I really want to read, and I have the first 4 volumes of. Partially why this is on my shelf is because I really like the color pink, and it adds some pink to the shelf. Fangs by Sarah Anderson isn't manga, but it's a little comic. I love vampires a ton. I've said that a billion times. Sarah Anderson's art's are really cute and simple. This one is a little more detailed maybe than some of the most familiar stuff she's done. It's just a fun little comic. I kind of want to draw something similar, I guess. I'd love to have a little vampire anthology or something like this, so it stays on the shelf for inspiration. Tali, Daughter of the Moon, is a French manga, which for a really long time, I was following the artist and would see that art, and I'd be like, wow, I wish this was in English, and it came out in English, so I bought volume 1. I might like to talk about this one day in that video on kind of how manga has inspired people from outside of Japan to make things. I think that would be a really interesting one, along with like Radiant by Tony Valente. That's another really fun non-Japanese manga, I guess. Then we have this volume of Polish boys love manga, Tsukio no Kurage wa Koi ni Naku. I can't read Polish. I'm not Polish in any way, but this was a gift from someone very close to me, and it's just cool to have on my shelf. It's tucked away a bit so no one just reads it, but it's a nice little memento. It's something funny. I probably would buy BL if I had expendable income or whatever. I think it's interesting to have cute gay anime boys on your shelf. That's pretty rad. Moving down, we have the Artbook Grow by Koyamori, and it's a really beautiful book. I really admire how much color and softness is in their work. It's something I just love looking through, and it makes me feel quite relaxed and inspired. Definitely recommend checking them out. Behind that is All My Blue Period and a copy of Nude Model, the one-shot collection, which I've covered earlier. Again, it's my favorite manga series. I really love the mangaka too. Highly recommend you check out Blue Period if you've never heard of it or are on the fence about it for whatever reason. After this, I have another assortment of different manga. Fist of the North Star Volume 1, because I have to have some classic Jump manga on my shelf, and Tetsuo Ohara's art is insane. It's always cool to just look at and flick through. Toriyama's Manga Theater, similarly, is another kind of classical thing, I guess. I think if you love manga, you should have this book on your shelf. It's so cool to just have all of these little short stories from Toriyama, who's one of the best artists ever in the world, and it's in this lovely hardcover. It's just such a fun thing. I need to just read through the ones I haven't read to yet. Gundam The Origin, another hardcover by an insanely talented artist, Yoshikazu Yasuhiko, who I think you might know from some Final Fantasy illustrations maybe. If I had the money, I would totally buy all of Gundam The Origin because the artwork in it is phenomenal. A Girl in the Shore is here because I just haven't read it yet. This is a bit of an odd pick for me because I'm not an Asano fan, really, but I've had this for 10 years and I just haven't read it, so I need to. Next, we have some non-manga. Vermis 1 and 2, which are very cool. Plastaboo's art book is really great, and the whole fake video game thing is really interesting. I mainly bought these though because they remind me of Kingsfield and Shadow Tower, which are some of my favorite games. I'm very much a fan of the grungy dungeon crawler aesthetic, so having these here is cool to just flick through and inspiring if I ever want to, I don't know, make a dungeon crawler or draw some dungeon-y art. EX Mag Volume 5 is a vampire anthology comic, which I brought to Kickstarter, and this is a pattern, but if I had more money I would totally buy the other EX Mags because this one is so beautiful. It has so many different artists making these different stories with different art styles, and I think if you love comics, I definitely recommend looking into EX Mag and PO2 generally. They're doing the Hibari release like I mentioned earlier, but some of the stuff they're putting out recently is insane. It's so just the coolest stuff. Glacier Bay Books is another publisher I wish I could buy some comics and stuff from as well, because they're also putting out a lot of really cool stuff. If I had the time to look into their catalogs, I totally would, and just, I don't know, find some cool comics there. Okay, so I just mentioned loving dungeons a second ago, and of course I have to have the Dungeon Meshi art book, the Ryokokui book, I forget its name, After the Witching Hour, something like that. And I have the Japanese version because, again, I'm a trendsetter, I'm cool, and I bought things at a premium before they came out officially in English because I wasn't sure they'd be released. I'm happy though I have this because the artwork is amazing. It's pretty minimal on the text from what I remember. Just Ryokokui's art's so good, it's fantastic. Her design sensibilities are crazy. Like, all of the characters feel so unique and fun. There's so much diversity to them in how she draws everything. And through reading or just looking at this art book, there's so many variations on different characters and the different fantasy races. Like, there's just an arsenal of designs in this book. It's so much fun to read through. It's one of the coolest things I own for real. And one of the coolest art styles. Looking through just inspires me to want to draw and create more. After this, we have some tactical art books. These little morpho books for drawing anatomy. There's this book on cartooning as well, which I've tried to read a few times, and it has this kind of lesson plan to do stuff. But it runs into the problem with the author sounds like a really self-absorbed dickhead and keeps adding sexual innuendos in for no reason. I don't know why this is on my bookshelf, but at least it's kind of funny to just bring this up. Like, no one's probably ever gonna know what this book is, to be honest. I found it randomly somewhere. The other thing I'd mention out of these books is this book, Perspective Made Easy, which I think is probably the best book I've read on perspective from memory. I've forgotten a lot of my fundamentals, but this one definitely helped or explained things in the clearest way possible that I found. Then we get to the X Files corner, and if you've been following me for any amount of time, if you know me at all, you'll know I'm a huge X Files fan. The X Files naming convention isn't born out of a quick, quippy name. There is some genuine love of X Files in there. I have an unofficial guide. I don't really know why. I kind of probably bought this randomly, or it was bundled in with something else. There's also this postcard, which is a drawing I did as part of my uni course, which I'm really proud of. It's just such a fun little drawing. I think about it a lot. I'm glad I have it on my shelf. There's the art book as well for X Files. It's a bit of a weird one with some very cryptic feeling artwork. A lot of it's just kind of odd, early internet feeling, like mixing around with images. There's not really like sketches or whatever of monsters or anything like I maybe thought there would be. Weird little thing. The absolute coolest thing here though is these 2 copies of the X Files manga I have. This is one of the coolest things I have on my shelf, one of the most precious things I kind of own, because it's so odd. Like, there's an X Files manga. Like, if you didn't know, there's an X Files manga. If you do know there's an X Files manga, chances are I've probably told you about it, because this isn't something that's scanned anywhere from my knowledge. No one's translated this. It's fairly rare, I think. There are 3 total volumes. I have only volume 1. I have volume 1 twice. Some asshole sniped volume 2 on eBay from me, and I will forever hold a grudge against whoever you are. That should be mine. The 3rd volume of the X Files manga I have never seen for sale, so I don't know if that's just a lot rarer, it had a lower print run, or maybe it never came out or something weird. It was definitely planned though. And I think each of these has 2 stories in. The first one, from memory, I think has Ice, and I forget the other one, but Ice is a really popular original X Files episode. Maybe Squeeze is in one of them as well. But this is such a weird thing I found. I found it while researching for the Jump History videos, and I was instantly locked in. Whoa, this is so crazy, I need to buy this. Thankfully, I found a way to buy it. This is something also I'd love to maybe scan or translate somehow so other people can read it. And making a video on this would be really, really fun, I think. The X Files manga, unearthing the X Files manga. if I had enough like Patreon money or whatever, I would definitely use some of that to put towards making a video like this, because I doubt anyone else would make an X Files manga video. It's such a niche intersection of subjects that specifically appeals to me. I'm really part of why I wanted to make this video is just to show off that the X Files manga exists, to be honest. So here it is. Okay, let's ignore the very bottom shelf for now and take a trip to the very top, which I put off from earlier. So it's all Gunpla. Any Gundam fan with their salt will have a bunch of unbuilt Gunpla, the grey pile of shame, I think some people call it. And most of mine is neatly organized on top of my bookshelf. So currently I have 12 kits spread out through a bunch of different Gundam series. Starting out, I have 3 kits from Witch from Mercury. I have the Ariel, which is the kind of poster child for Gundam Witch from Mercury, which is a kit my dad got for me as a birthday present. I guess funny little story is he kept forgetting to give it to me for like 1 to 2 years. So eventually I got this kit. I still haven't built it. But yeah, I think that's just kind of funny. He just kept forgetting it. I also have the Gundam Ilfrith, the kind of first one, the prototype for the Ariel, and a Gundevolver as well, so a grunt suit that appears later on in Witch from Mercury. All very Gundam-centric kits. If there was another Gundam from Witch from Mercury, it would probably be the Caliban I'd want, because gay Rainbow Gundam is very cool. Next up, we have one of my favorite, or maybe my favorite mobile suit in all of Gundam, the Shining Gundam from G Gundam. It's just really cool. I like it more than Burning for whatever reason. Maybe it's the like green orb in its center, the original Shining Finger speech being more iconic to me. I just like this design slightly more than Burning for whatever reason. It's just such a cool mobile suit. Then we have the Gundam Mark II AU version from Zeta Gundam, and this is a kit I picked up early on while watching Zeta because Zeta was really cool and made me really fall in love with the series overall. And the Mark II Gundam is just really cool. I don't know, there's something kind of chunky about it, which I really like. I really love its design. There's a Zaku as well, which I have built. I'm not going to show it off or anything because it's not great. I'm not good at building Gunpla or anything. It's just kind of relaxing activity I've done a few times in my life and will do more probably as I build more kits. Yeah, everyone loves the Zaku. Amazing design. There's not really much to say. The other 6 kits I own are all from Iron-Blooded Orphans, which is the series that originally got me into Gundam. So I have a big fondness for its mobile suits and characters. There's something special about its more gritty, apocalyptic, almost like survival. And I like how all of the mobile suits, there's a lower focus on range weaponry and more on melee and hand-to-hand or having different just weaponry for the Gundam, for the mobile suits to use. We have the Guison Rebake Full City, piloted by Akihiko Artland, which is a mobile suit I absolutely love. Its kind of sandy color scheme is really appealing and different, and then it uses this massive pair of nippers as a weapon and has 4 arms. Pretty crazy. I have the Hyakuri, which I got a really good deal on this kit, and I should have bought its sibling, the Hyakuran, at the time because it was also really cheap, but I didn't. Oh well. Really cool little suit. I have 2 copies of the Gundam Barbatos. I have the original kit, which was the first kit I bought while I was watching Gundam IBO, and sadly this kit ended up falling at some point and I lost a bunch of the pieces, so I mainly just used this as storage for building parts, nippers and stuff like that. The Barbatos is such a cool suit though, really cool design. I love its like mace it uses as a weapon. It's V-fin on its head, its crest is really cool. Thankfully I do have a other version of Barbatos, the Barbatos Lupus with his big sword, so I can build another Barbatos if I want to. I also have the Kimris Vidar, which is another one I got a really good deal on. It's a villain suit, kind of cool purple color. And did I see finally? There's one more. I've got the Grey's Ritter, piloted by Kata Issue as well. which is a really cool grunt suit from IBO, which is very knightly, kind of reminiscent of Roman helmets, I think, in its design, and the turquoise color are really nice. I think the coloring in IBO is really cool. It's not super duper colorful like Build Fighters or whatever, but I don't know, for how dark and dismal the series can be, there's a lot of color to its suits, which I really appreciate. I will probably try to build these at some point, but I shouldn't buy more Gunpla. I think I have too much and I don't build it. If I did have to buy more, I would probably buy the G-Quacks though, because that's such a cool and odd design for a mobile suit to have. Okay, now back to the very bottom, we have a ton of art books, and they're a mix of practical to begin with, a lot of stuff related to making art, because I am an artist, I guess. I have been to university for art and I should study more, but I find it hard to. But I have all of these books to help me when I do. There's a lot of stuff related to light, anatomy, making comics specifically, and storyboarding. I should read them again and read the ones I haven't. The main thing I would recommend from all of these are probably the books by Scott McCloud, especially Understanding Comics, which is an absolute masterpiece. It's an educational book about comics that is itself a comic, that plays around with the conventions of comics to kind of illustrate its points in this really fun way that you just learn a ton from it, and also it's fun to read, and I got such a great appreciation for the medium, and it definitely flicked some switches in my brain that altered how I perceive art in some really big ways. Yeah, it just made me think about creativity and art, and it genuinely like moved me, which I was not expecting. Then we have a bunch of art books on like existing properties and stuff I like. The Persona 3 and 4 art books are really cool. They've got some cool things from the games. It's nice to look through and look at the designs of the characters I know and love. The Dark Souls 1 design works is a really cool one. I'm a huge fan of FromSoft overall, but specifically I'm a massive fan of Dark Souls 1. I love the dark fantasy designs, the characters' armors, weapons, and this showcases all of that here in some really cool ways. JoJo 6521, really cool art book. Just having Araki's art kind of on hand, full color in a big book is so nice. I'd love if JoJo Velier got a release in English. It definitely would be a premium, especially if they add the extra like booklets, the stand booklets and whatnot. I know JoJo A Go-Go got a release in English, but I don't think the stand booklet came with it, which is a massive shame. Having like a stand compendium for JoJo would be so cool. I think so many fans would love that. I have a few other art books. This Full Metal Alchemist one is really, really nice. I haven't actually flicked through it much. Hiromu Arakawa's art is just really cool. If I rewatch or reread the series, I would definitely like go through this again, I think. I guess as a fun aside, Full Metal Alchemist is actually my like first anime manga. If you don't count Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! It's my first time being exposed to anime, like as anime or manga as manga. It started with my dad just buying a copy of Full Metal Alchemist for me, the first 3-in-1, because he was watching Full Metal Alchemist, the anime, and he was getting into anime before me, and was kind of like, hey, you should read this. Here's a present for like Easter, not religious or anything, just a very random thing to give, but that volume of Full Metal Alchemist kickstarted everything, so you can thank my dad for all my videos basically. I have some other stuff, Pokemon Adventures artwork, which is pretty cool. Everyone likes Pokemon. One Piece Color Walks 1 and 2 because Oda's artwork is amazing and really colorful. There's a small Naruto artbook here. The Art of Wolf Walkers because I really adore that film, and all of the sketches and behind the scenes stuff in there is so creative and fun. There's this artbook on Shushio the Idol. It has a ton of really cool Trigger related stuff, Kill la Kill, Gurren Lagann, a bunch of other stuff as well. They have a very unique, expressive art style that a lot of people love, so having that on hand is really nice. Sprite and Gardener isn't an art book, but is a really, really lavishly illustrated and colorful, whimsical comic that doesn't fit anywhere else on my shelf. I highly recommend this. The artwork is by Rii Abrego. They're a really cool illustrator who I've been following for a long time. Very cool. I'll try to link all the artists I mentioned, their like blue skies or Twitters or whatever in the comments, because if you want to follow some cool artists, I'm kind of all about that. I'd love to share them. I even brought a copy of this for my grandma, because the sprite and gardener just reminded me of my grandma and her garden and gardening, and there's something so pure and related to childhood about that, which I associated. And I like the idea that more people should just kind of have comics. It's a medium, like, it has definitely grown in popularity and people are accepting it more, but it's still something people look down on, when in actuality it's such a useful thing to understand the language of like illustration and visuals, and having visuals paired with text can be really just effective. I think it can really help enhance emotions. It can help enhance your understanding of things, especially in children. That's something interesting to think about, and that's why I kind of bought it for my grandma. I thought, yeah, you should have a comic in your house. This fits you, Granny. You should read it once, or maybe look at the artwork sometimes if you want to think about me or whatever. So I definitely recommend checking that out if you can find it. And then finally, last thing, the piece de resistance, we have the Art of Guilty Gear 2000 to 2007. I'm going to link an English translated version of this with full scans, which I found on the Internet Archive, just if you want to look through it, because it's amazing. Daisuke's art is breathtaking. If you don't know, I love Guilty Gear. Strive, definitely, it was my introduction, but the artwork for it, the aesthetic and the art is such a big reason why I love it. I can play, like, I'm not the best ever, but I can play. I can give you a run for your money maybe if you're not that good, but I'd say I'm beyond just button masher at this point. But what I love about it the most is its aesthetic, its music obviously, but visually, like how it is. Guilty Gear is very early anime. It's inspired by things I love and I'm familiar with, like JoJo and Bastard and early Shonen stuff. But it's also very punk. It's very like individualist and cool, and how Daisuke draws is gritty and edgy, but also poppy and peppy at the same time. It's such a cool combo of like, this is rad as fuck, but also kind of well drawn and colorful. And just look at some of the images, like how he draws Sol and he's all cool and stuff, and then some of the goofier characters like Axel or like Bridget or something, and their smiles, that they're so expressive. I just love it. I could sit down with this book and go through it for like an hour and just get lost in the artwork. It's so mesmerizing. It makes it even better that I got this for an absolute steal online. I guess from someone locally in Wales or whatever who like was getting rid of it, and I just found this. I got so lucky with it. It is one of my most like treasured things, so I think it's a cool thing to end on this bookshelf tour. I know I didn't go into depth a ton with everything. I did cover a lot of things, and I've been recording for over an hour, so hey, you've been listening to me yap for like an hour if you've gotten to here, so thank you so much. I hope you found some cool new things maybe to check out, be it more manga to read, or art books, or different artists to seek out. Yeah, that's I guess the end goal of this, to just find more cool stuff and appreciate art. I hope I get it across. Like, I love artwork and the things like we make as humans. Definitely one of the big things I want to try to push on the channel, like that philosophy. Art is so important, and we should talk about it and just love it and share it as much as possible. Maybe one day when I get a better setup, I will show off some of this stuff in a more clearer way and get better with it. I'm not a very physical person. I prefer to hide in the dark digital corners of the internet, but yeah, maybe I can show off more in the future. If you really like this and you want to see more stuff added to my shelf potentially, consider joining the Patreon. You will get some bonus stuff. There's some bonus videos on there. A lot of them are about manga, but I did release a video on SCPs with some considerable editing. It was me testing out just editing, practicing basically, but reading some spooky SCP stories, which was a lot of fun. And the people I did who did end up watching it seemed to enjoy, so hey, I'm gonna plug that. Maybe I'll do more even. You can get everything basically for as little as $1 a month, or just $1. You'll get the playlist of all the YouTube videos, and there's polls for X Files and stuff. The only differences between the tiers is at the $3 and higher tier, you'll get a bonus little doodle which I draw for everyone. But yeah, if you want a cool doodle or just want to see some extra videos, please check out the Patreon. And now it's time to thank all the cool patrons. Thank you, Trinity, Jade, Kazuku Gairu, Circle Zero, Holly the Apothecary, Mayu, It's Faco, Yellowtail, Lay Slugged, Chris P. Bacon, Sho Henshin, Full Metal, Unquestionable, Yuzakura Psycho, Whizzle, Violent, Cactus, Joni, City Name E, Vino Burrito, Caffeine Dad, Cryonaut, Crash, 41IZ, Hong, Jamie Reynolds, Manu, Poke Emblem, James Miller, Jopo Monkey, Just a Virus, Star Sphinx, PK Broly, Fenrir Black, Elijah Espinoza, Neo Humanoid, Mark Nielsen, Electro Pirate, Jay Vaso, Three Frogs in a Trench Coat, Sir Flash, Gay Shark, Slimy Okra, Giddista, Hilltop, Vaco Draws, Otaku Gamer X, Deadhan, Shy Monkeys, Jonathan Dragonet, John Sanford, Color, Jaime, Strawberry Prosione, Vaz, Palette, Ruiner, Juice, TG Talks Manga, Chromie Knox, Eric Gorski, Mr. Shira, Grizz Exploder, Dextora, Eni Oshowo, and Cheese at the $1 tier. Thank you all so much for being patrons. I hope you enjoyed this video as something a little different and more chill. Let me know what you think about my shelf and all my cool stuff. I will happily kind of extrapolate on stuff if you want to know some more info about things, but for now, take care, thank you for watching, and remember to be kind.